I've seen both your names together for a long time, or couple of years, well, maybe not a long time, but for a couple of years now. How did you both get into touch with each other?
Well, we actually didn't reach out to each other specifically, but when Too Big to Ignore got started here, based out of Memorial University, Newfoundland, in 2014, Fishing for Success was invited very early on as a collaborating organization. And so then the first World Small-Scale Fisheries Congress was held in Thailand.
That's right.
And I was invited to attend and present the very first presentation about Girls Who Fish, organization here out of Petty Harbour that Fishing for Success sponsored. And Yinji Lee was there attending the Congress. And so that's where we met.
Yeah, that's right. That was the third World Small-Scale Fisheries Congress there. And then, we learned, some rope work. We had a culture session, during the Congress. Yeah, and I got to know Kimberly. Yes, and then I had a 1-year sabbatical where I stayed in Newfoundland for a year, and I was with my daughter. So so I reached out Kimberly, and saying, is there any program that I can have my daughter to attend or something? So that's how we
She actually signed up as a Girls Who Fish member. Her daughter Ami came to the program every 2 weeks and participated. And I really didn't put 2 and 2 together because there were so many exciting people to meet at the Congress in Thailand. And I think Yinji had to remind me maybe a year or so later, we met in Thailand, remember? And she showed me a picture.
Right. That's right, yes.
And I really didn't put it together because just so many awesome people to meet there. Yinji Lee is, of course, a researcher, and she has a PhD, and she's a professor at Tokai University. And I'm a practitioner who wants to put all of this amazing stuff that these researchers are coming up with. I want to put it into action, and primarily at the level of teaching kids to fish and providing access for people. And so that's where this kind of exciting dynamic, I think, happens, where researchers and practitioners and community people interact. Yeah. And so that's kind of where this dynamic.
Where it started.
Yeah.
When you go to something like so that, what year was Thailand again?
It was 2018.
2018. What was that like for both of you, to show up there in Thailand for that type of an event?
Oh, well, this was my first visit to any country in Asia. So I had just decided I was going to eat everything.
Yeah. Good place to do it, Thailand. Oh my gosh.
That's right, yeah.
It was just absolutely amazing. And listening to all of the different views from people and fishermen and women and community members and the different academics who were there sharing the work of small-scale fish harvesters from around the world was, of course, fascinating. You think that you're going to hear things that are so very different, but it's not really. It's different place, but very similar stories. And so right away you find connections with people very quickly, and it's it's this very shared.
I felt the same way because actually, that was my first time being in a World Small Scale Fisheries Congress, and then I got the same impression. We've been joining or attending the conferences, but normally it's academic conferences, right? But this is the first one, first Congress that I held. A lot of we involved the community people, not only the academia practitioners, community people together discuss having same topic and to have the discussion together.
And you start hearing stuff. You're like, wait, I can recognize what you're saying, or that feels familiar to me, or even though you're in Thailand, it's folks from like small scale fisheries from all over. What are some of the things? So there's the you mentioned like knot work, right, and that side of it. What are some of the topics that were discussed at that one and that kind of came up? If like just you don't have to be too specific, but just in general, like what's an example of some of the conversations that would take place?
Well, because I'm of course focused on young people, to hear people from. To hear the fishermen from Bali say that they have challenges getting young people interested because they're on their smartphones too. So you're just wondering, oh my goodness. So, we've got technology is just, it's everywhere. It's embedded across the world. And so here we are in Newfoundland, and what we wouldn't give to be in Bali, right, on some of the weather days here. And then we think of the young people being on their smartphones in Bali.
That's wild.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then they have the same very common problems that we have here, succession plans in the fishery, how to get kids outside, how to get them engaged outside, how to get them to put down their smartphones. And so, what do you do, and how do you do that, and what does that look like? It's similar problems. And small-scale fisheries are very different, of course, from the large-scale fisheries. So with small-scale fisheries, you're talking about boats that are under 15 meters. These are the boats that in Newfoundland and Labrador, we think about the small boats in the harbor that keep the small communities going, that, Nan and Pop make a living from, that visitors to the province want to see in the communities.
This is that culture part of Newfoundland and Labrador,
that's that
right?
Culture part, right?
Like the part that we all, when we talk about the fishery, that's the part that we think about for a lot of folks anyways.
Right, the family fishery, that we think about. And so this is what we're thinking about when we think about small-scale fisheries. And so how do you, if you're having problem getting kids to put down their smartphones, to think about getting in the boat or getting outside and getting connected, and everybody's having a problem with a succession plan. Well, gee, what are we all going to do about that? And so trying to talk about programs that might be working for some people around the world, and what can we bring here is important too, because I don't have a problem with stealing someone else's program.
No, it's great to do.
Right?
That's working there. Let's take it
and
how can we adapt it to here?
Yes, because proof of concept is awesome, because then you've already got it worked out, right? So, yeah.
What struck it like for yourself, right? Like when you went there, 2018. There's the academic lens, right? But then there's like hearing from whether it's Kimberly or others, like what things kind of like struck you as being interesting at the Thailand meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on the small scale fishery before that.
Yeah.
But again, the community. But I also work closely with community, the fisher people, fishing folks, communities, and then. And the conference, and now I feel we should have, the director of the topic to ignore in this conversation, I think. But normally this Congress, we have covered several topics, including, the governance lenses and then gender lenses and something about justice as well. So these topics are so important to think about this, sustainability of this small-scale fisheries or family fisheries. So, kind of all.
From your research in Japan, and where you've lived here for a year, right? What is similar when it comes to small-scale fisheries or the culture? Because I think a lot of folks here will think of somewhere like Japan and be like, oh, it's very different, and it can be very different. But Kimberly, like you're saying, right? Like with the Bali example, there's things that can be very, very similar as well. What like from where you're doing your research to coming here for a year, what kind of struck you as like, oh, that's kind of the same, or things that were really different?
Yes, actually, same. Before I came here, I think I had a kind of the same impression. so different because it's, Canada. It's, fishing, an ocean fishing nation, but yeah. And I came here, found out that, small-scale fishers or fishing communities are not that different. So actually we had a chapter to write about this. The title, it's different but similar, or it's similar but different. It's the kind of things. Yeah, they are kind of, having harsh situations. That's the same in Japan. But I think, community people are, getting together. They really just, making every effort for making things better. And then, so that kind of things. But, and there's once I went up to north, to the St. Anthony, or that area. And I found, the communities there, it's, I think, that, the environment or things are maybe in a sense worse than the ones that we're having in Japan. So similar, difficulties that communities are facing this,
And what are some of these difficulties? Because when I think of Japan, I think demographics difficulties, right? So you have an aging population. You also have folks moving into
the big cities.
Yeah, like so whether it's Tokyo or Osaka or whatever, right? So draining of the rural areas. Plus, then there's still you will have limitations around fishing, the health of different fishing stocks. And some of those reasons can be a bit different, but still, like those are some of the issues. Like, what are your am I on the right track here? Or?
Yeah.
Sounds like Newfoundland, doesn't it?
Like exactly.
I know. Yeah, and then and I think I would like to focus on maybe the lack of successor issues.
Yeah,
because that's the major thing that we have in Japan. But here, because when I'm up to north and when I go to fishing communities, I think that's what I heard. The same. Their sons don't want to stay in the community, but they want to, but they don't have choice because it's not good income out of the fishing. This job. So that's the same situation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, low income. So they don't want to stay and leave the communities. But so this is the thing that we need to do to raise, to strengthen these fishing communities, their economic viability. Right.
And again, I find it so fascinating that you can take a spot, look at Japan, and then look at Newfoundland and Labrador, and fishing communities, and be like, you know what? As different as some of these places are, there are some real big similarities that folks are trying to overcome. Succession of that next generation and who's part of it, and how to do it responsibly in a time of climate change and everything else, with the questions around it. Kimberly, what do you think?
Right. Well, one of the things that on my last visit, Yinji and I were talking to is that the coastal communities there in Japan are looking at tourism and how would that help fishermen to create a broad base of earnings, so that when their fishing earnings are kind of a little low that year, maybe tourism can help with it. And so there's that discussion there within the fishing cooperatives in those communities to look at tourism. And so, again, that's something that comes in coastal communities here about how can tourism bolster local small-scale fishing to provide an additional income. And so that's, also something that coastal communities have in common, too.
And it's something that I don't see. So my friends who will travel over and who have traveled over to Japan, I see like the Tokyo stuff, the Osaka, the bullet train. I don't see folks out on fishing boats doing tours, right? But like you will see here. And it's something that you will see some of here, and especially if you go to, like Petty Harbour and check out certain operations that are happening there. But that's such an interesting thought for Japan and like bringing that in, especially a spot that's got massive tourism numbers. Before the pandemic, 20 million people a year were coming in, and I think it's back to that, if not more than that right now.
But the important part of this tourism is that who should be the actors? It should be always the the community people.
Yeah.
It's not some I don't know, the companies who
Some big
don't have
chain.
any, things to do with the communities, but it's not like this. The community people, it should be always a community people and carry out this economic things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not always, it's not only about, earning the incomes or making money. It's so more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's community health, prosperity, culture,
And then,
responsibility, the succession planning, all of that. It's not like, Toyota Inc. coming in and be like, here's the tourism thing in addition to the vehicles we're making. This is actually like a local city, like, Atami or something. It's like the folks in that city saying, here's what we want, and it's right for us, and here's how we're going to do it. And it's our plan that is helping with community success and to help the community thrive.
And tell their story the way they want to tell it.
That's right. So, we have a new created word because we don't want to call it, it's the, new word, can I say it here? It's called umigyo in Japanese. So that's the word combination of the, marine and then source of living. But when we, the Google translation would translate like a marine business, but we don't want to call it marine business because we have, so whole deep philosophy about this new concept. So we decided to call it just as Japanese umigyo. So
Wow.
And I think it's it's already happening. It happened quite a long time, but it's that we need to do it more like more promote this activities to strengthen the community or raise up their viability things.
So then what's the take up on it in Japan? Like from different prefectural governments or the national government, what's the view on it there?
Now, so now government, they also want to promote this concept, which started from last year. And so this is the situation here. The community activism is already there, but it's a good thing. The government wants to promote this more, but a little concerned about that. Government has broadened kind of this concept. So this who part or the actors, this area is not that clear to the people, right? So there might be kind of justice issues happening in future if we don't do things well about this.
Yeah, if you lose control of it, and all of a sudden it's in a bureaucracy that might take it, or a business side that might take it in a completely different way than was intended.
That's right. Yeah. So that's one of the major work that we're the research network we're doing. TBTI Japan. Yeah, one of the.
So then, what more do you think? There's seems like there's even like a learning lesson for folks to look at some of what is being done here in this province. But then what learning lessons have you been getting from all this, Kimberly? I'm sure there's a bunch, but
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I'd like to go back is because just at the very end of my visit there, I found out that there's a fishing high school. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
So
Fishers.
yeah. So I want to. There's a fishers school for younger people, and so I, of course, would like to find out more about that. And and then Yinji was also saying something about, and this had happened just before COVID, that the city kids were coming into the fishing communities for fishing programs, and then that had stopped and it hadn't picked back up again.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I was interested in finding out about that program, even though it hadn't picked up again, and at least to find out some of the historical information about it. So that's another issue that we see here in Newfoundland and Labrador is even the kids who live in St. John's and they live within view of the harbor waters or the ocean. They may never have been in a boat or gone fishing, and so we face that issue here too of helping young people connect with their ocean heritage. And so how do we do that? And so having those discussions with people who live in Japan and who are trying to reconnect young people who live in the city with their coastal heritage too is important. my personal reason for doing that, of course, is for climate change concerns, because climate change is driven by what's happening at the ocean, and so I want to get as many kids at the ocean as possible. So, what can we learn from each other and our previous attempts and our future attempts to do that? So, what does that look like? So,
is that harder here? Because here's an observation from just me living in both places. I think on the culinary side of things, from infancy to end of life, there is a much stronger attachment in Japan to the ocean when it comes to food than there is in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's not everyone, but I think it's a lot of folks.
Yes. So I would say Japanese eat much more fish than we do. I ate so much sashimi visiting there.
It is so much more.
I caught up on all the fish I ever wanted to eat. And here we might eat it once a week, maybe.
In a place where fish means cod, too, historically,
absolutely.
Right? As opposed to...
Right.
It wasn't until I got to South Korea in my early 20s, one of the first dates with my wife, we were out, and there's a bunch of shells being grilled, and I was just like, I recognize these. I didn't even know we could eat them. And then we're having a delicious feed, but I just didn't have... And I grew up not being picky, but just it was stuff that we just did not eat.
But not to put all the blame, on... I think that's true of any kind of food. We've lost our connection with where a potato comes from, and what it takes to grow a potato. So I think that's true of all of our food. We're used to going to the grocery store, or for many children, it's going to the food bank. And so we're used to our food being in a box or being in a plastic bag in a box inside another plastic bag. And I think many young people are just familiar with our food coming in wrappers and not being in the ocean or a stream or in soil. So I don't think that's something that's uncommon anymore, unfortunately, to, just to Japan or Newfoundland.
Yeah, actually that thing's happening in Japan nowadays too. But, comparatively, yes. I think the difference... The cause of the difference between Japan with so rich culture, fish eating culture in here is that has something to do with I think governance system, because here I don't see many local food are consumed in local area here, right? But in Japan we have the system, allow the fish or we have the local market system where people do the auction, betting system, the things, and then, consumed and being, distributed in the local area and having people come to the local area to have the fish. But we're gonna need to do this more. But when I was here and went to the communities, I wanted to buy and wanted to eat the local fresh food from there. But on all all you can do or you can go is just grocery stores over there, which is so nonsense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, like sometimes unless you know the secret handshake of who's got the what and where in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, you're not going to get the stuff that's local and landed at that port because it goes from here to elsewhere often, and sometimes comes back.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
In those boxes
ready
that you're
to
talking
export
about.
out.
So I don't know. Maybe access issue to the market. Yeah. So. And fishing communities should do this more, and then this will help the raising up the fish prices, or help them to secure their income from there. So, yeah.
So what part could, say, a school lunch program play in getting more local food into into that to kids? Because we've got, it starts with eat what you eat when you're younger. So, can we get fish into schools? Working around that fish allergy issue, which I hear about frequently. So then I moved to thinking about, well, what does it look like to get seal into schools?
Yeah.
Seal is a mammal, so we put cow into schools. So why can't we put seal into schools? We've been bringing things like moose and fish, codfish, and seal into schools in the past couple of years in programming. And, a lot of the kids have never eaten any of those local Newfoundland foods. Mm-hmm. So with the federal program and support for school program lunches coming up, what would it look like to strengthen the local food chain by getting those kinds of items in there for kids?
Well, and this is part of when I talked about the connection to food a couple of minutes ago, this was part of what I was thinking about, right? Because whether it's certain countries, so the two I've lived in, right, South Korea, Japan, you do have fish in schools, right? You do have that connection to cultural food within schools all the way up through, which I think there's a discussion to be had or an argument to be made around that then helping pave the way for you to continue to feel attached to cultural food later in life.
And schools in Japan, regularly have the fishing folks to school and then have a talk about, the fish they're eating. Mm-hmm. So this is also about, food education or fish eating education kind of things that small-scale fishers are playing the important role in this, education things. Yeah.
So as you both learn all these things, how do we keep pushing things forward for these conversations to build on achievements or to build on progress?
Mm-hmm. Gee, I don't know. Fishing for Success is really small, so we try to form partnerships with organizations bigger than us and try to poke them into helping to.
Is
it 10 years now, by the way?
10 years.
Congratulations, first of all.
Yeah, so 10 years anniversary, another anniversary.
I know, and we're really excited that it happens to be, right at the same year that it's 10 years for the small-scale fisheries voluntary guidelines.
Guidelines,
by
yes.
FAO,
you
right?
must know, yes.
So that's kind of a neat coincidence. And
that's right.
10 years with Too Big to Ignore formation, too. So we're really excited about those kind of neat coincidences, but... Yeah, we've been here for 10 years.
10 years, and it's just about finding other partners, finding other folks.
Yes, to leverage that, right?
Leverage it.
So that we can get that necessary education out there about why it's important to eat local food, not just for cultural reasons, but actually as a way to help solve that climate change puzzle, right? When you go to the grocery store and you look at, they're now putting, the tags on where this food came from. Mm. And you can see that when you're shopping. And, do you want to buy something that's come from South Africa or Mexico or, how far away has your food come? Because those food miles add carbon footprint to your food other than just to grow your food or package it. And so the more that you can reduce your carbon footprint by reducing the distance that your food has to travel to get on your plate, the less impact that you have on living here, right? Or living anywhere for that matter.
I guess there's also a conversation there around if you know that something is from grown or sourced, harvested, whatever, locally, then there's a hope that there's some form of mechanism for say in how it is grown, harvested, hunted, whatever else, right? So to bring that in with climate change, with everything else, places that have had overfishing, which is, the world over, but just to really focus in on that and be like, actually now, we shouldn't be eating this anymore, or we should be actually eating more of this as opposed to that because of just responsible fisheries and land management.
Right. Well, there is that issue with fishing. Absolutely. Know where your fish comes from, know your fishermen, know how it's fished. That is really important. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when people know where all these food come from, they will pick up the things that they know. And that's the reason why we need to raise awareness again. Where the value of the small scale fishery, value of the fish, So which like family fishers, they are paying much attention or making their efforts currently. So,
what's something from either Yinji, you coming here, or Kimberly, you going over to Japan? What's something about ocean culture and connection to the ocean that you've noticed? Because I'll start. One time I was interviewing a couple, and it was up near after the nuclear disaster in Japan, their home was in an exclusion zone, right? So they still couldn't return to home. So this was they were like right next to the ocean, and there was this through an interpreter. They talked about their connection and wanting to go home. And for me, being from growing up in Newfoundland, this strong connection to home is all I've heard growing up. And then to hear that all the way over in this part of Japan, and the fact that it felt so familiar to me was, I don't know, it was quite the moment, because I was just like, of course there's a strong connection to the ocean. Of course folks just want to go home. And you can pick and choose. You can put a dart anywhere on the globe and kind of see or feel that, I'm sure. But what's something that you guys have noticed?
Yeah, I think the connection. Because I think first reason that I really was attracted to this Newfoundland. This is my favorite place to go. I think that's the connection between ocean and the society and the rich fishing heritage or rich fishing cultures. People here take pride in having this whole fishing heritage. I think that's So, but maybe we need to do it more. Yeah, maybe it's not maybe. We need to definitely do, and have people know their history of this whole, their home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enhance it more.
In here and in Japan too.
People ask me that about, what it is about being near the ocean that draws people back. And and then specifically to me, like, what is it about the ocean that draws you back? And sometimes I just wonder if it's because it's so embedded in our human DNA that really you can't put your finger on it, right? Because it's just so deeply who you are that how could you pick that out? How could you pull it apart? The planet is more than 70% covered in water. We forget that because we're land dwellers, but we're really clinging to, less than 30% to the surface. So fishing predates agriculture. Yeah. Going down to the edge of the water to collect things trapped in tidal pools was the easiest way to get protein. I just think that we, if you really are connected to the ocean, how can you pick out what one reason? The surface of the ocean changes every day, and it's the way the clouds scud across the sky and across the water, and it just looks like you can't pick the clouds apart from the ocean, and then there's things living below there that you really can't discover, and then maybe you get lucky enough to go diving one day, and then it's just... it's just amazing. And then the huge amount of power that ocean has, and it can just, in a blink of an eye, destroy a home that you've lived in for generations. And
yet we're still drawn.
But yet you want to go back.
Yeah.
And, it's just like that property in Petty Harbour Island Rooms. It's right there in the land wash in a flood zone. And I knew that when I purchased it to start a project to teach kids to fish, but that's what it means to be in the land wash. It means at any moment you could be washed away. And I think that really describes kind of the human condition of living on this planet. I mean, we look every day and we see the increasing incidence of, these crazy weather things going on. And
and actually that reminds me of, Japan is, a nation with a natural disaster, tsunami and everything. But it's, community people, they just keep coming back up after this disaster thing. So this is the connection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a pull.
Why people are, coming back after this whole, nightmare of this. But
Yeah, and you name, like, from folks lost at sea to, like you said, tsunami to storm surges, but yet folks still
keep coming back.
Come back.
It's just who we are. We just
home.
Rise. Yeah, we just rise to the challenge of it. It's just defined who humans are. I mean, it's the only thing really that gives me hope about tackling climate change is that we've,
Yinji, hope for tackling climate change. Do you have hope?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope spot. Actually, bright spot, hope spot is
Yes.
the top. It's the main theme of our congress that we had in April in Japan.
Yeah.
Yes. I think the future. Because quite many people there they think dark future. But
It's because it's really easy to do that, right?
Yeah,
like it's
right?
very
Yeah.
easy.
So easy.
I think it's harder to kind of look for the hope spot, as you say.
hope spot, and there are all the bright spot as well. Yeah, so and on the way to do that, to make our bright future as the respect this connection again, and then and again the small scale fish to recognize the small scale fishery importance of the small scale fisheries. The connections between the natural ocean and the human society.
Getting young people involved.
Getting young people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's coming up for both of you? What's on through this I guess the end of spring into summer and beyond? What's on the schedule for both of you?
Schedule.
Is there anything coming up with
He wants to know what we were plotting at dinner the other day. That's what he wants to know.
I think so. So then, because every time we get together, we come up with ideas, and this time, because we already started started to make this world will change. So we're talking about
in our little corners.
What's our next stop? We had a sister program. Why not a sister communities between Canada, or I don't say Newfoundland and Japan? Yeah, so maybe that's gonna happen soon.
Right. All right, sister communities. Kimberly, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we love the idea.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that we can learn by looking at the real resilience of communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also adore the one what do you say, screeched in culture in here.
We were talking about that.
Japan have a lot of local fish, and we have the local sake kind of things. Why not have this culture to our culture?
Well, and there's also the Japanese term "nomunication," which is really
Oh,
important.
you know that well. Yes,
Can you explain?
communication. Yes.
Can you explain nomunication to folks?
Of course, it is my important culture.
Yeah.
So the nomu is the drink in Japanese word, right? And then communication. You communicate while the drink.
So for screeching in, I mean, it is nomunication, right?
Communication.
So she's going to do the sake in, is what she's talking about. A sake, and then kiss the
another
tuna.
reason that I was attracted to this land, the drink culture.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Very important.
Oh my!
This has been a fantastic chat. Thank you both. Safe travels back.
Yeah, thank you.
And Kimberly, I'll be talking to you before too long, I'm sure.
Absolutely, thank you.